On y'all, this is Masterpiece and I'm back at it again. Wow. This everything has shifted, I mean, every topic that you see is about flat earth. Every debate, you know what I mean, it's about the shape of the earth. And it's getting to a point where people are being woken up. At the same time, there is enough answers out there for nobody to still be asleep or questioning about it. I noticed that in a lot of the open forums and debates, or just like the comments on my videos or other people's videos, a lot of the people that are unsure or they are in belief that the earth is a globe, they commonly ask questions as if they ask questions like, well, if earth is if it's flat, then explain the sunrise. Well, if earth is flat, then explain this and that. And I just want to touch on that for a second, because first of all, these questions that you're asking the quote unquote flat earth community, quote unquote, you could just be asking yourself and then going to do the research for yourself. Instead of asking somebody else, you could just ask yourself. And that's what most quote unquote flat earth, plain earth knowers have done. They have asked themselves a question and then they have answered it. Let me just check this. Secondly, I notice an air of arrogance amongst the people that believe it's a globe. Also, I also notice an air of arrogance with the flat earthers, but from the globe perspective, let me just say this. If you're right now a person that believes it's a globe and you think that it's ridiculous to be a flat plane, then why are you asking someone who, in your opinion, is silly? Why would you ask somebody who you think is an idiot, for lack of better words, answers to these very, very deep questions, that are rooted in science of, geometry, geology, astronomy, you know what I mean? Say you're a glober and you say, oh man, those flat earthers are idiots, right? Say the people in the quote unquote conscious community are saying, these people are so stupid. It's not flat. It's a ball, whatever, right? Well, if you're shunning them or putting them down for believing that, questioning their intelligence, then why then genuinely ask them something? Why would you ask a 5-year-old about mortgages? Why would you ask a gymnast about boating? You know what I mean? If you want to know a truth and you are putting yourself as above flat earth believers, then why would you go lower to ask them a question instead of asking yourself that question, the more intelligent person, and then find that answer on your own? And if you did, and don't be afraid to do that, because I find that most people, they think that if they do that deep down inside, they are going to come to the conclusion that the earth is fixed and not moving. Okay? Now here are some questions that, it's getting to the point now where the globe earthers have to prove it's a globe. When this first came to light and it really caught on, there's people that always knew it was flat. I am not one of those. I used to believe that it was a globe myself. I was very into it. I was very into the stars, the solar system, quote unquote, the, astronomy books, all of that. And when I was faced with these irreconcilable challenges that were presented by the flat earth, I looked at it myself for a long time. It doesn't take 6 months. It doesn't take, it is a process of undoing the NASA lies. So right now it's getting to the point where there's so much evidence, so much proof that the globe earthers, y'all are the one that has to now prove that it's a globe. Okay? So now there's questions from a flat earther or a plane earther, an infinite plane believer, okay? I wrote them down. Number one, you got to prove curvature. Don't look to the land, because the land goes up and down. There's peaks and valleys. And according to your model, the globe is consisting of over 70% water on the surface, right? So if you want to prove the shape of the thing that we live and stand on, then you're going to have to show curvature on the one thing that remains constantly level at all times, and that's water. Water will always find its natural flat level. It always applies pressure evenly in all directions until it is flat. It'll fill up every corner and crevice until until it's fully saturated, fully contained, and it'll result in a flat level. You cannot, any globe earther, you cannot show an example, as above so below. You cannot show an example of water, right? Water that, you pour water into a cup and it fills up and it's flat. You can never show an example of water forming to the outside of the cup or the outside of a spinning ball. Or if you want to take a really, really, really big ball and spin it, the result is going to be the same. You cannot reduplicate gravity's effect, quote unquote, gravity's effect on water. Okay? You have to prove that. Find curvature. If the globe is, quote unquote, if the quote unquote globe is covered in over 70% water, then the thing that you want to measure for its true shape is the water. So go out there and get the research done, and show us the proof that the water has a curvature. If you want to resort to experiments already done, that's fine too, and you'll see that there's absolutely no curvature. You're gonna say it's too big to measure a curve, but if the globe is a measurable thing, right? We've measured it, right? In your theory, in the model, it's been measured. So if the globe has been measured, if the circumference and diameter all has a number, then there should be a curve. And that curve, well, maybe I shouldn't say, I don't want to bias anybody, but just for your, if you're lazy, the curvature is for every 1 statute mile, English statute mile, the earth gradually decreases or curves away from us at 8 inches square. Okay, so show the curve. Just show the curve. At any altitude, just show the curve. You're going to have to do that. It still hasn't been done. Number 2, explain sundials. Okay? Oh. You're going to have to explain how sundials work on a globe that is moving east to west, right? That's moving side to side. How you're going to get a shadow that is indicative of a clock motion. It can be done simply on a flat earth model. Explain why the horizon is always at eye level. Okay, you're gonna have to do that, because if you're talking about the vanishing point, and the vanishing point is where something recedes out of view from, right? Then you're going to have to explain why, when we go up in aircraft, why the vanishing point is still at our eyes level, meaning that there's still more to go. It still remains in that general direction. I'm an arts student, and I've done too many works in perspective to know that as you're rising off of a ball that's curved, at a certain point you will see more. Okay, so you're gonna lift off, and there's a certain point where because of your perspective, your vantage point, you will be able to see further, but then that will shortly end a couple hundred feet into the air, and it should start curving down. It should start receding down. The horizon should start receding down. Now, if you're a globe earther, you don't understand what I'm talking about, well, then that's part of the problem. Flat earthers have done the researchers. Globers, we're still wanting these answers. Why can you see the horizon at eye level on a plane? And get on a plane before you start making assumptions. You know, actually go on a plane and look at it as I have and as many others have. Explain crepuscular rays, okay? Crepuscular rays diverging from a common point, okay? So when you see like the sun bursting through the clouds, explain those rays. Explain why the level gradients are so inconsistent with a sun that should be 93 million miles away. Explain why when we talk about triangulation to measure an object, why is it that when we measure the sun's rays, we come out with a figure that is much closer than 93 million miles? Okay, sun bursting through. Get as low as 0% No sun bursting through. This is not a long distance. Look at it. Casting down its rays on all angles. Then you get over here. Now if the sun is hundreds of times bigger than the Earth and 93 million miles away, why is there no sun rays bursting through these clouds that are only mere kilometers apart? Mere kilometers apart. Here's the sun. No sun. No sun rays. If the sun is 93 million miles away, every point in the sky that we should see where the sun's rays are coming through the clouds, they should be parallel. Because remember, we're very, very, very far away from the sun, supposedly, right? So all the light that is shining through the clouds in our small area of view, say you're in Kentucky and you're in Kansas City, right? And you're just looking up the sky up at the sky over Kansas, and you're seeing a few clouds. Now those few clouds are only 100 kilometers in length, maybe more, give or take. But you're looking at an expanse of sky which is nothing compared to the size of the quote-unquote globe. So if you're looking up, right, if you're looking out into the sky and you're seeing a small proportion of the Earth that you can see being lit up by the sun's rays and they're diverging into crepuscular rays, then explain how the sun could be that many million miles away. When if I go to a few states over, I will still see crepuscular rays under that sky, meaning that because a lot of the globe earthers say when the sun is pushed back and it's coming through the atmosphere, there's refraction, so it shoots it into many different angles. But you never see angles crisscross. You never see these crepuscular angles crisscross. If there's a cloud here and a cloud back here, it's not bursting out into crepuscular rays here and then bursting out like a fan into crepuscular rays over there as well. And then if you line them up, you'll see them intersecting. No, if a cloud is here and over here, the rays that are crepuscular will remain constant, and you see what I'm saying with these images that I'm throwing on the screen. Okay, you can't escape that. You're gonna have to also explain the quality of the moon's light versus the sun's light. Okay, now if the moon is a reflector, then that's all it can be, is a reflector. It can't be a transformer or whatever, a transmuter. It just simply reflects. So explain why the moon's light is different than the sun's light. And I mean qualitatively. The quality of the moon's light is a silver blue, it's cold, it's measurably cold. In the moon's light, it's colder than if you were in the shade of night. In the sunlight, it's warmer than if you're in the shade of day. So if the sun's light goes and shoots onto the moon and then warms up the moon and then sends the rays back, and the moon is fully saturated with the sun's light supposedly, so that would mean that it's fully heated up, which means that it doesn't have a chance to make the light cold or something like that. It takes the light, this is for the globe model. It takes the light, it saturates it, it's supposed to be getting warm, right? And then it shines the light back. But how come in the process of doing that, it reflects back a blue light and it reflects back a colder light? Now, if the moon's a reflector, it means by definition throwing back that which it has been thrown onto. So if a yellow light is thrown onto it, then a yellow light is thrown off. If a red light's thrown onto it, then a red light's thrown off. So you have to explain that difference and explain why the sun is antiseptic and it cures flesh and fruits and whatever. And in the moonlight, it's very septic. You cannot store and preserve things with it. In fact, there's been many reports of deleterious effects happening, and there's many reports that I've read anyway about captains of expedition ships warning the crew through with a note or a sign or whatever that they cannot sleep on deck at night because of the effects that the moon has. Okay, but we all know that the sun has great effects on the body, but the moon has deleterious effects or injurious effects on the body, negative effects on the body. Okay, this is all proven. I'm not just talking out of my ass. This is all stuff that we know in the flat earth community. This is all provable science, natural science. Explain the climate difference between the North Pole and the South Pole. Okay, if we're a globe and if we lived in a closed circuit, meaning nothing can get out. You've heard freaking Bill Nye say that we're not, you can't get off Earth. It's a closed system. The water goes up, it rains back down. The atmosphere keeps in the heat or whatever, right? Clouds are formed, they stay in our atmosphere, they don't go flying off, right? Because of gravity, right? Or whatever, it keeps, whatever. We have an atmosphere, right? Quote unquote. Why then is the South Pole so much drastically different qualitatively than the North? The environment is hellish. It's extreme cold, way more extreme than the North Pole. No signs of life. The signs of life that are there are very minimal amounts of life, of diversities, even animal life, like butterflies and snails and caterpillars. But in the North Pole, it's abundant with all of that. As soon as the spring comes, everything blossoms. The snow melts and it provides running water for the lakes and streams. Things blossom. Little insects come out of the ground, out of their larvae, and they get to work eating, and they spread their wings. The polar bears come out. The penguins are around. The foxes, the rabbits come out. Trees grow. They get their green back. In Alaska and all that, and Nunavut and all that. But if it's on a globe, if it's on a ball, right? All of these. The things that are observed at the north should be observable at the south as well. It shouldn't be too cold to fly over. It shouldn't be too cold for instruments to work. It shouldn't be too cold to go on expeditions and so dangerous. Do you know how many people have died trying to explore this quote unquote South Pole? You know what I mean? So it just shows you that another lie, you know what I mean? And you're gonna have to explain that. Explain how on a globe that's tilted, right? We're tilted, so the North Pole gets into the sun, and then it's tilted, so now the South Pole should be into the sun. You know what I mean? Explain why there's such a drastic difference in climate and temperature and landscape. Okay, that's something that you're gonna have to think about. That's something that you're gonna have to explain, which can't be explained. But on the flat Earth model, it's easily explainable. You're also gonna have to explain why the sun always rises from what seems to be the horizon up, right? What seems to be the ground up. People say, "Oh, we're spinning, so we're coming over the hump, and then we're seeing the sun and it's rising up, and then we're spinning past so it goes back down. But if we're on a ball spinning, right, just like the other problem of the sundial, if we're spinning east to west, explain how we can always have a sunrise from the bottom up, from the ground up. On the flat earth model, easily explained. Again, easily explained, natural science. But on the globe, it doesn't work. We should be having suns coming from, you know what I mean, from the top down, from the right to the left and up in all types of crazy directions, right above us, like right overhead of us. If we're on the equator, you know what I mean? We should be seeing it go like, you know, right up above. If we're on the poles, it should be spinning like right around. If we're on a tilt, a 45 tilt, we should be seeing it doing some crazy things, you know, much more crazy things than we see every day, where it comes from the bottom, quote unquote, bottom up. Flat Earth, again, easily explainable. Globe Earth doesn't make no damn sense. Now, here's something that I want to show you guys that's actual, like that I actually did. Okay, like this isn't from like, you know, a video that I got this from or some shit. This is like what I actually did. Okay, I went, you guys know that I went on a flight from South Ontario, because look how big Ontario is. South Ontario to Malawi. Okay? Now, that's a straight line right there. Okay? On the way back, I didn't want to go back home. You know, the flight was taking longer because it's always longer on the way back. You know what I mean? You don't want to go home. You want to stay in the sun. So I went from Malawi up to Ethiopia just to get on a bigger plane. You know, this is it's a huge jumbo jet, and you know it's a really good price flying out of Ethiopia Airlines. You know, you got Kenya Airlines as well, whatever. But anyways, keeping on point, we went from Malawi to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, right there, Addis Ababa, up to Ireland, and then, if you can see with the latitude, down to Toronto. Toronto right there. Now, if you're asking the question, why would an airplane company go outside of the fastest route? Now, let's think about airlines for a second, people. Airlines are cheap bastards. They want to make money off of you in any way they can so that they can get rich. They are not going to spend more fuel than they need to. They are definitely going to find the shortest possible route and stick to it. So let's go to a flat earth map and see what that route looks like. Okay. You got Malawi here. Okay. You got Ethiopia, Ireland, and Toronto. Now, if you look back at it, if I step back, that is Malawi to Ethiopia, straight shot to Toronto. And what is in between the straight shot? Ireland. So, explain that. No, it doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't need to be explained. Now, let's look at this map. "5,000 years of human history have brought us to the threshold of a new age religion. It is an age typified by science and technology. By the end of colonial domination, secretly, it's just been moved into NASA, by a growing awareness of the interdependence of all nations and all peoples." Okay. This is basically telling you that 5,000 years of human history only have brought us to the threshold of a new age. So this is Masonic. Okay, this is 5,000 years. You know, this is the powers that be. This is the beast. That's their timeline. We know that, you know, Africans have been here for millions of years. We know that people have been all over these continents for millions of years, because every time we excavate, we find an old buried city beneath. You know, we just keep on going through history. You know, we get wiped out. We grow up and then we wipe out and get buried, and grow up and get buried. You know, and anybody using this model, it's way out of date and it's way wrong, and it will not give you the true distances between things. This map shows countries in proportion to their relative sizes. So it's not scientifically, practically correct as it is. No, it's countries in proportion to their relative sizes. So what they did was they started at the equator and got the correct sizes, and then they built off of that, upwards and downwards. And so it skews certain aspects of it, like you know, this is not as vertical as it should be a lot wider than this, but in proportion to other countries, you know, it's correct. Whereas this is correct just as it is. You don't have to change nothing. You know, mariners use this map to navigate the sea. They use a flat map to circumnavigate. If they want to go east, they want to go west, they just sail around the circle, the dish. They just sail around the dish, and they return back east. Okay? So, I mean, that's something that I found. You know, why are we gonna... I got cranky. I said, why the fuck are we stopping all the way up in Ireland just to come back down to Toronto? You know, start in Malawi, up to Ethiopia, up to Ireland, and then back down to Toronto. When I just showed you, but I'll do it again, just for anybody that doesn't understand, start in Malawi, Ethiopia, then straight shot to Toronto. And in between that straight shot is Ireland. Right there, smack dab, right in the middle. So it's kind of getting ridiculous, y'all. I mean, about the whole, you know, the argument. Is it round or is it flat? When you look at all the experiments, all the science that's been put together, you will see that undoubtedly this, what we know, what we live on, the areas that we know, the areas that we've discovered within the Antarctic ice wall, all that land, all that water is flat. There's mountains, there's peaks, there's dips, there's crevices, there's waterfalls, but it is horizontal and it is not globular, and it is fixed and it's motionless. And from what we can observe, that's the way it's always been. It's not a ball, and any ball head is gonna have to prove it's a ball. Now we're getting to the point where you're gonna have to prove it's a ball. So I got those questions. You heard my questions loud and clear. Just answer those simple questions and we can move on. But since they won't be answered, and I hate to jump the gun, since they won't be answered, why don't you just, since you won't do it for yourself and and you want to believe other people anyway, just come to a person that knows flat Earth really well, like Eric Dubé or Brother Sanchez. Go to their channel, Jeranism. Go to their channel and type in any question that you want, and it'll be there. Because the science, the flat Earth community isn't dumb. It's not like we missed something. We're just like you too. We thought about this. Well, what about the stars? What about the motion of this? What about parallax? What about, we thought about this, but we didn't let the answer, we didn't let the question stop us. We didn't let that be the threshold. We use the question to propel us further into the truth. And the truth is that the earth is what we know. For what we know, it is a overall horizontal, unmoving, fixed plane with mountains, peaks, and valleys, and rivers, and oceans. Okay? What's beyond the great Antarctic ice wall? Snow, and ice. What's beyond that? We don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. But we know for sure that the earth is not moving, is fixed, and that the heavenly bodies are rotating all above us. The planets, the moon, the sun, and the stars. All right, y'all? So open up your mind. Set some time for you to personally research these things. Do personal observation in your daily life. Notice how clouds right under the sun are way more illumined than clouds just to the right, just a couple hundred kilometers away, when it shouldn't make a difference if the sun is that big. All of the clouds should be evenly illumined, just like the moon. Why does the cloud only light up when it goes in front of the moon? It should be all evenly illuminated. If you see in the night over there, there's no moon, you faintly see clouds, if at all. But then you see right around the moon, and you see them lit up, and then the ones going in front of the moon are so bright. Okay? This shows you conclusively it's a local light source for both the sun and the moon. So just stop with the questions that you don't expect an answer for. If you want to ask a genuine question, ask it. But first, ask it to yourself. Don't go to these dumb, retard, flat earth heads, because they're stupid, remember? We're not logical, remember? So you, with your logic, go and find out with your logical mind why it is that we're saying this. Why is there millions of people saying this? Why is it a top trend? Why is it, why does it put all other conspiracies to shame? Why do we give $50 million to NASA a day? Why do we get cartoon images? Why can't we explore the South Pole? There's so many questions that you start to ask once you start putting this in conjunction with the other conspiracies, conspiracies that keep us oppressed. Add this in there. You don't believe the moon landing. You don't believe the JFK. You know what I mean? You don't believe the Twin Towers were bombed by hijackers from Iraq or whatever. So come on. This is another one of those follies to keep you here, to keep you from stopping to explore, to keep getting your money, your hard-earned dollars. All right? We got to wake up, and we don't got to get mad at each other. We don't got to use it to divide. It doesn't have to be a new race game. It doesn't have to be a new this or that. It's just simply a truth that's coming out, and we're looking further into it. And if you haven't looked far enough into it and you still got questions, ask yourself. And then if you can't find it, then sincerely ask somebody else. But don't use the question as a means or a way to negate you going out and doing the research. And don't use the question as a way to end the conversation. Why don't they move this way? Done. Peace. No, stick around for the answer. Be patient. Be open-minded. All right? But always have love in your heart. Always eat to live. And always be compassionate with your fellow man. All right? So that's all I have to say. Globe Earthers, you got some splaining to do. All right, y'all. Master Peace. One.